Hi, it's Paris from Epic Reviews. I want to talk to you today about this Geno 2.0 kit. I just got mine in the mail. I signed up a couple months back with National Geographic to join this project that they're doing. Whole Earth Human DNA project, where they want to find out where people came from originally, what routes they took, and how they ended up where they are today. So this is expected to have several 100,000 people participate, and you do have to pay to join in. The cost right now is $199 for the kit. If you're in the US, there's no shipping and handling, but it costs a little more if you are somewhere else in the world and want to participate. What you do with this, I'm guessing inside, are these little cheek swabs, because I participated in the 1.0 project that they did back in 2005, along with about 500,000 other people. And you basically got a little kit, which is these kind of swabby, scrapey little brush things on a stick, and you put it in the back of your cheek and you swab it around some for 30 seconds or so, and then you stick it in a little container which you send off to them. And contained in that will be some of the cells from the inside lining of your cheek. It's not something that hurts you. Slough off cells from the inside of your cheek all the time, apparently, so it just catches some of those loose ones. And with that, they can do the DNA analysis to find out your ancient family history, which they then let you know, and they use that in aggregate to have more information about in figuring out the paths of all of these people and their different migration routes. So it's all very interesting to be part of. And this is the kit I just got in the mail. Not a whole lot to it. It's just like a black box kind of thing. Let's see what actually is in here. Okay, opens with a magnet. And there's a booklet, and these are the cheek swabs, it says right on here. These are the things you rub around inside your cheek. A plastic bag, presumably you put it in that. Let's see, down at the bottom here it says vial, so there must be a little plastic tube in here. So I would guess with these swabs, they're a fairly long stick, and then there's the actual part that comes in contact with your cheek. All they need is the part that comes in contact with your cheek. So I would guess they either have you break off the end or cut off the end and put it in the vial, and that's what gets sent to them. In this, it's a bubble pack envelope to the Genographic Project. Extra postage required, so it'll be $199, and whatever a stamp costs now, 44 cents, I guess. So you got to put the stamp on yourself, and it transports in that. And there's a booklet in here about the project, presumably, and the sort of thing you'll get with your results, the graph showing what percent of DNA came from where. The other interesting thing that my father is particularly interested in, and we can find this out on the male side since we share the Y chromosome passed down from father to son, but if I don't know if they can tell this on the female side or not, but whether there's Neanderthal DNA in our family line. My father is convinced that there is. So they tell you about that here in the booklet. Here is the consent form and how to access your results. And it looks like my secret code is here on the back, so I'm not going to turn it around and show you the other side. So, okay, what they do with this, with the DNA, is they test about 150,000 markers on the DNA and compare that to people that they know their ancestry and the kind of markers that they have, and they can figure out where your family came from originally pretty accurately, and also the likely route that your family took. And, we all came out of Africa whenever it was 70,000 years or so back, and then there may have been multiple migrations. Anyway, this whole story changes as they learn more. By participating in the project, you're helping to provide them with more information and some money to do more research on this. On the back here, what I'm looking at is about access your results. You do have to go online, so you have to have internet access to do this. Of course, if you're watching me right now, I'm guessing you probably do. They want to provide privacy, so they separate your credit card billing and your name and who you actually are as a person. They separate that from your DNA and your DNA testing. So they obviously know your name and have information about you to charge you, excuse me, and to send this to you in the mail, this box. But once you send the results back in, I believe, I haven't read this yet, but it's been like this with previous DNA testing that I've done for genealogical purposes. They have a code number on the vial or the tube, and that's the identifier. So the lab only knows that this DNA sample goes with this code number, but those people don't have any way to find out, to tie together the code number with an actual person's name or information. So it keeps it separate. And you do have to sign a consent form, it looks like. And you have to tell them if you're a man or woman, or if you're doing this for a child. So it's that sort of information. Anyway, with your secret code, once they have finished the DNA testing and have the results, they obviously enter it into an electronic database accessible online. You go in with your secret code, however you set up your account, and then you can see your results. From the booklet, it looks like, and from what I've seen on their website, they give you percentages of where your DNA, this isn't quite the right way to say it, but originated from, whether you have a large percentage of European DNA, Asian DNA, African DNA, and so forth. And they seem to give you a map as well, indicating the likely route that your ancestors took in their travels to get you wherever you are now. I did a DNA test a long time ago, 10 years or so back. One of the first ones when it first started becoming even remotely cheap enough for people to actually do. This was out of England. I don't remember the name of the company, but the man, I think Brian Sykes, he was involved with it to some extent, and he's written several books and is very involved in this sort of thing and learning about the DNA and where people have gone from place to place in ancestry and so forth. Anyway, they offered to tell you your ancestry if you came from England. There was a specific test you could do if you had English ancestry, and my family came from England about 120 years ago. So my father and I split the cost, and it's the Y chromosome they were testing, so we share the same Y chromosome, goes from father to son. So we did the test, sent it off, and they could tell you, it wasn't a whole lot of information. They only tested, I think, either 10 spots in the DNA or 10 genes, I'm not sure. But anyway, it was very limited what they did. It was very expensive. It was like $450, and it took a couple months to get the results. Anyway, they could tell you if they thought you were Norwegian Viking ancestry, Danish Viking ancestry, Celtic ancestry. There were just a few different things, and mine came back as inconclusive. They thought I was Danish Viking or Anglo-Saxon. So didn't get a whole lot of information from it, but it was really interesting. It was fun to tell people about that you had done this test. That's back when DNA testing was a really cool thing. Now you can get I guess a kit at the drugstore to find out if it's really your child or not. But that's a whole different kind of testing. That's one other thing I want to mention. This testing doesn't do any medical testing. No, they test 150,000 points on the DNA strand. They don't look for genetic abnormalities that are involved with medical conditions. So if you're thinking, oh well, if I have this illness, they'll tell me because they'll show up in my DNA test. No, that's not right. They're not going to test for it. They won't know about it, so they wouldn't be able to tell you about it. That's medical DNA testing is a whole nother subject to talk about, and what it can tell you, whether you want to know what it can tell you. This is completely different here. Now, you are, however, going to send them a sample of your DNA, and they are going to test it, and they will get information from your DNA. So if that sort of thing freaks you out, you might want to think twice about it. Again, there's the privacy fact where they separate your name from your sample. So that sample is really only tied to a several-digit set of numbers and letters. And you have to consider too that when you go out to a restaurant and drink out of a cup, you've probably left some DNA on the lip of the cup. When you go to the barber, oh, they probably got DNA there. You're leaving your DNA all over the place wherever you go. So you have to consider whether that's enough of an issue to bother you. It's through the National Geographic, so I think it's a very reputable place to have it done. I'm going to swab my cheek, send this off. I think it just takes a few weeks now to get the results back. It's gotten so much faster. They've apparently they have a computer chip that has some kind of an inlay in it, and when they get the DNA processed, where they basically multiply it, so they get many, many copies of it, and they pass it, this is my understanding, now I could be wrong in this, but they pass it on this on or near or over this chip. Basically, if the right pattern is there, it fits, and then that's how they know that you have this particular pattern at this particular point. It's more or less like that, but it's amazing the progress that they've made. And supposedly in a few years' time, you'll be able, for just $1,000, to have your entire genome from beginning to end sequenced, where they can send you, it'll probably be like a set of encyclopedias, because I've seen at the Seattle Science Center, they have a book, and it's a massive hardbound, small typeface, huge, I don't know, a couple thousand page book that is, I believe it's the sequencing of one of the 23 chromosomes in the human DNA, and it's that much. So without a way to understand it, it's just a bunch of repeating codes of the A, G, C, T, G, T, A, A, T. That's all it is, page after page after page. But knowing where that sequence falls, and knowing a lot of experimental results that you've done on people to know that people who have this code tend to have this illness, or tend to be tall, or tend to have blue eyes, or however it is you figured it out, that's the other part of the puzzle that they're still working on. But yeah, in a few years' time, it won't be that expensive to go have the entire set of blueprints of how to make you printed out in a series of books. Well, you'll probably get it on DVD, of course, this being the day and age that it is. But anyway, you'll be able to have the entire set of the DNA that exists in every cell in your body printed out for you. So I'm going to try this. I'll send it off, and I'll make another video when the results come back, show you the kind of information that they can provide. I'll show you my information. I don't think I have anything to hide about the secret affair with the Neanderthals. Well, we already figured that's happened. So I'll be back when I have the results. I'd recommend you give this a try too. I don't think there's really anything to be afraid of, and it's really fascinating to be part of this, to be helping them out, and to be part of something that's so early on in really its infancy of how it's affecting human beings. Computer technology is still growing and miniaturizing, but you know, it was 30, 40 years ago that it really started to become so popular, used in all the businesses and so forth. So those people were the trailblazers then, the people who designed all that and worked with it and developed it. And in a small way, you can be part of, you can be a little trailblazer with DNA, our understanding of DNA, both historically, how it's going to affect things medically in our everyday life and in every hospital visit that you go to, and in all the medicines you take that'll be custom designed for you soon. So this is your chance to be a part of that. I recommend just spend $199 and don't miss out.